Hi, so welcome to part 2 of our modifications of the VX. Now, there are a few bits and pieces I want to talk about that sort of a bit of feedback from last week. However, before I do, we can have a quick look at this. You know, I spoke about putting the wing on. Well, what I'm doing is basically fabricating the brackets here. Now, if you remember, I'll just move all this out of the way. What I did is I made some sort of cardboard templates. These are going to fit to the back of the car, and then the idea is, using that template, I'm now going to basically make this out of quite lightweight steel. This is going to be, if you like, the frame that's going to fit, it's going to support the wing, and then that'll be clad either side with something. Either we'll use aluminium or I'll use fiberglass, I don't know yet. But all I've got to do now is start to weld all this together and you'll see the brackets. I've now made the brackets up that fit on the template, and you can see they're all welded up now and they're all just being finished at this point. So that is basically sits like that, and that goes then up against the car, and then this will be the support for the wing that will then sit on top. Now at the moment, obviously, it's just all got to be finished off. I'm not going to leave it metal like that, a frame. I'm actually going to cover it with a piece of aluminium set in, or fiberglass it all with this structure underneath. So we've got steel structure underneath. It's very, very lightweight. It's quite 16 mil, 1.2 mil sidewall. So both brackets together really don't weigh that much at all, but they'll provide more than enough strength to hold the wing on the car. If I do go active wing and come up with a tilting system, this will be the bracket system that basically holds the front edge of the wing, and then the wing, I'll come up with the actuator system that will actually then allow the wing to move. So effectively this is the pivot point at the front, and that's it. So we've got to get them all finished, get them painted, and then the next bit. So after all the work on all the brackets, the wing is on the car. It doesn't move, it's not active or anything, it's a static wing. I'm really pleased the way it looks. It looks really good. I've actually gone, you can see the way the brackets have been done. They're mounted to the car, now they're covered now. I didn't leave them open. Originally I was thinking, should I leave them open and get them all finished? But I haven't. I've gone with like an aluminium finish on them, and you can't quite see it from now, I'll do some close-ups. Carbon fibre inserts inside, which gives it a really nice look. Obviously it's really solid on the car, and it's mounted to the chassis. So even though it looks like it's actually bolted to the fiberglass, inside there is a bracket system made up that basically takes all the support from this and directs it down through the chassis. The danger of not doing that could be, I say could be, I don't know, that obviously this will flex, this will move, and it will be put under pressure. It could then cause fractures in the fiberglass here on the back, which could cause cracks or micro cracks or something like that, which would then damage the paint, and then you might get water in underneath, and it might cause all sorts of problems. So the idea of bracing it seemed to make complete sense. You know, I've seen wings that have just been mounted to the boot lids and things like that, which I suppose is fair enough, but I didn't really want to do that because I just felt that, you know, it might cause damage to the car itself. So this, as I said, it's braced straight through onto the chassis inside. And of course the beauty with mounting it here and not on the top is it doesn't compromise the boot space in the car at all. So I've still got all the space that I had inside, although there isn't that much of it, to store whatever I want to store. Yeah, really pleased with that. As you can see here, the rear sort of boot bonnet, whichever you want to call it, lifts completely clear of the wing, and there's absolutely no compromise on the boot space. So I've still got all the boot space in the back, which on this one, of course, is all nicely carpeted and lined. So you can see the steel bracket here bolted through to the chassis. So the carpet's been removed now, so this is what's kind of underneath. It moves up to the back of the car, it's bent sort of upwards. The steel is more than enough to support the wing brackets. It's quite heavy duty steel. Does add a little bit of weight, but then again, the wing is fully supported. And you can see it doesn't compromise on the boot space at all. So we can see the wing support here on the outside of the car, bolted to the back of the car. A bit of carbon fibre inlay. It's very neat on the outside, no kind of visible bolts on the lower section. Kind of moving up, and then it's bolted under the wing. There's a little bit of adjustability there underneath the wing itself, so I can move the angle of the wing if I want to. Really pleased with that, very, very neat and tidy. And of course that's bolted straight through onto the steel behind, which means it's nice and strong and it's not going anywhere. Okay, so there you have it, that's the mounting of the wing. Couple of factors that were really, really important. I didn't want to compromise the opening and closing of the boot. It was really, really important that I retained the boot space because I used it. I didn't want to put brackets inside it that got in the way of everything. And it was important that this opened and closed. All right, yeah, there's a wing there now, so you can't reach over the back, but you can still very, very easily open and close the boot. Mounting the wing on the back, I like the look of it, but actually, importantly, I didn't want to mount the wing on the top because if the wing were to come off and I sell the car and the person that bought it didn't want a wing on it, having big mounting holes in the top here I think would compromise the look of this car too much. Having the holes at the back, they can easily be covered, they can easily be hidden, and it wouldn't compromise that kind of classic look that you get on the top of this car, which is really, really nice. It's just my opinion, it's just what I wanted. Does it make any difference when you drive it in terms of performance? No, or I haven't got a clue. It feels exactly the same to me. It just looks good. Maybe it creates more drag. Well, actually, it definitely creates more drag, and it definitely creates more weight. And I suppose if you add drag and weight to any car like this, it's going to slow it down. So actually, in essence, by fitting a performance wing to the back of this car, I've actually slowed the car down. Yeah, that's a good idea, wasn't it? But it looks good, so I really don't care. Right, so something else that I was obviously playing around with the car. Obviously, we've got the LED driving lights that have been fitted, where the fog lights go. Now, originally I had them mounted to the brackets, the fog light brackets, but they sat quite far back in the car. What I've done now is actually redesign the bracket inside so the light fits a little bit more flush with the bodywork. It sits a little bit more proud of the bodywork, and I think it looks much, much better. Also, I've got them set up now so you can choose. So if you run it normally, they'll auto dim in the correct way, or I can switch them effectively like with a fog light switch if I wanted to, so I can have them on or off if I want. The other thing I want to do is, I've got the headlights to do yet. What I want to do with the headlights is, they're fine, they're working really, really well actually, but I want to get the lenses off. I get a little bit of condensation in them, and it's probably just because the tape around here has gone. I'm then thinking about the inside. I'll either use vinyl to give a carbon fibre look, or I'll just redo it with real carbon fibre, which is kind of what I've done here. These were originally aluminium. Now it's a bit more like an aluminium sandwich now, so I've got a little bit of carbon fibre inlay on top, which I've got then the trim around, and it just looks a little bit better. It's kind of like a thin layer of carbon fibre sandwiched over the aluminium. It just, again, it's just all for look. Do these make any difference on the road? I don't think so. Do they on a track? Yeah, maybe, but these things, for them to work, need to be out here somewhere. You know, they've got to be massive to be able to move the air around. I'm not an aerodynamicist, I don't know, because it just looks good. And again, these are just all bolted underneath, and they're actually bolted underneath with special kind of shear nuts. So the idea being, if this actually did strike anything, it would just break off, and it wouldn't then compromise or damage the front clam, because obviously if this was bolted perhaps directly to the clam and it was ripped off, it could take half the clam with it, which would be probably expensive on a car like this. So what I'm normally working on is things like this, working out how to try and mount miniguns on the front of a Batmobile. However, what would be super cool is, how about rear firing miniguns on the back of a VX? I could have them drop out from the pods at the side. I'm not sure that would be too legal though. Not sure how you explain that at the MOT either. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, okay. Right, okay, so there you have it for the end of part 2. In part 3, what we're going to do is we'll get the car jacked up, we'll look underneath, we'll look at the mods that have been done to the suspension, the brakes, bits on the engine, all the kind of stuff that's all kind of underneath, really. One of the things that I did want to mention before we go was the tyres. Now, it was interesting, when I bought the car, it had Bridgestone tyres on it. And even though they looked absolutely amazing, there was no cracks on the sidewalls, the tread was perfect, they were old tyres, they were marked, I think they were nearly 10 years old. Now, you think nothing of that, really, when you buy a car, you just think, oh, tyres are great, no problem. When I went out and I drove it and it felt okay to me, I had nothing to gauge it against, whether it felt bad or not. And a couple of people said, you must be mad driving it with those kind of tyres on, put some new tyres on it. And at the time I didn't think anything of it, I just thought, oh no, don't be silly, you know. Obviously the previous owner just didn't do the mileage on it. And I kind of bit the bullet in the end and I went and I bought new tyres. And my goodness, the difference a new set of tyres make. So even though the tyres I had before, the Bridgestones, they looked great, they clearly didn't perform as well as these. And these aren't super sticky tyres. These are Yokohama Advan Fleer tyres. They are, you know, not budget, but they're not mega expensive. They're nice and sticky, they're great. But the difference it made was incredible. I also kept standard sizes, so I kept the standard size on the back. Front, however, did have to go a little bit wider because the original Bridgestone tyre, which is made in a 175, is like hard, it's so difficult to get hold of. So I went to a 195 at the front, it's still within the tolerances of the rim. It meant I could keep the original wheels and everything. And do you know, one of the best upgrades I've actually made to this car is those tyres. Makes such a difference. So obviously, if you are buying something, look at the age of the tyres, not necessarily just the condition of the tyres, because it might be that they've just reached their sell-by date, you know, and you just need new tyres. And in my case, they had, but I wouldn't have believed it looking at them. Anyway, see you in part 3.